All right, everybody. Thank you for everybody that's been downloading the Detroit Sports Podcast. To support us, we'd love for you to go check out DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's the hub for our podcast. You can check out 24/7 online deals. You can save money on car rentals. You can check out the DSP shop. You can buy tickets. Anything at all regarding Detroit sports, you can find at DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's also the place where you can go to download the DocNJock program. Thank you guys for your support. Check out our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's the free and easy way to help us continue to provide great sports content. www.DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Thank you in advance.
We appreciate y'all.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
All I want to know is if you got your popcorn ready. Do you got your popcorn ready?
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
I said, are you strong? They said, I'm strong if you strong. And I said, we strong then.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Darren McCarty gets his shots in at Claude Lemieux. And look who came all the way out to try to help. Patrick Waugh. Oh, my goodness.
You are listening to the DocNJock Show on the Detroit Sports Podcast.
Yes, sir, everybody. Welcome to episode number 82 of the DocNJock Sports Podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me is my favorite co-host, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz?
Dude, you want to hear an earworm song? One that just gets stuck in your head and rots your brain?
Go for it.
So, you know that new Sprint commercial that they got with the narwhals? Narwhals swimming in the ocean, causing a commotion, because they're freaking awesome. That song, dude, stuck in my head.
Oh, my God.
Like, I can't get it out. Like, it's been playing over and over and over and over for like the last 3 days. It's horrible. It's horrible. I run around the house screaming it at my wife.
How surprising is that? I've never heard that.
Really?
No, I've never heard it. I've never seen it.
Now that I mentioned it to you, you're going to notice it. You're going to see it. It's the Sprint commercial with like these animated narwhals. I didn't even know what the hell a narwhal was. It's like a freaking unicorn and a whale mixed together. It's weird. Look up the pictures. Google image it. It's a disaster.
Because we got a slammed podcast this week. Lots of great news with the Red Wings and the Lions. The Tigers are kicking off spring training, and very heavy news going on with our sports teams, and I can't wait to break it down. We're going to have a chance to also break it down. Doc and Jock have infiltrated the organizations. We've spoken with play-by-play voices. We've spoken with a lot of writers from Detroit Sports Nation. We've spoken with actors. This week, we infiltrate the newspapers. Detroit news writers are going to come on this podcast and break down Red Wings and Lions news. Josh Katzenstein from the Detroit News will come on in, give us some insight regarding the whole Suh issue, the Lions not franchising him. And Gregg Krupa, Detroit News sports writer, covers the Wings, tweets a lot about the Red Wings, will come in, give us his insights regarding the Red Wings trade deadline moves, what he thinks are the Red Wings contenders now that they picked up 2 new additions. And also, let's compare what other teams did and how do the Red Wings shake out in regards to, the additions made at the trade deadline. Cuz, my man, you ready to kick this bad boy off?
Yes, sir.
All right, so the deadline came and went, and the Lions made the right choice. They did not franchise Ndamukong Suh. And from what I think, I always go with the philosophy of WWBD. What would Belichick do? Would Bill Belichick and the Patriots organization drop $27 million on one player or have 3 top players taking 40% of your cap? Obviously, the answer is no. And the Lions made the right move, in my opinion. They did not franchise Suh. And a lot of people are now a little bit anxious. They're a little bit worried. What's going to happen now that Suh is close to being able to negotiate with a lot of teams? A lot of teams are going to come and are going to make a serious pitch for the man's services. I'm quite surprised, though, at some of the names. Jacksonville, Oakland are going to want to throw serious dollars at this guy. Will he take it? And also, around town, lots of people are critiquing what the Lions did, kind of how this whole negotiation played out in regards to knowing that Suh is going to want this deal? Should maybe they have traded him last year? Should they have potentially not fiddled with his contract? And I remember distinctly you pointing out and writing on our blog page at DetroitSportsPodcast.com, hey, if the Lions continue to kick the can, renegotiate these contracts, it's going to come back to bite them in the butt. This was the year it did it. And right now, this whole Suh ordeal is coming to an end, and I'm interested to get your thoughts right now with the whole Suh saga.
I was excited and pleasantly surprised that they didn't renegotiate his contract or that they didn't sit there and franchise him, because it's time to pay the piper. If you keep doing this over and over and you go out and you give this guy the $27 million if you franchise him, or you were to try to restructure some kind of deal with him during the season, all you're doing is you're just backloading it. And at some point you got to pay the piper. So now they're paying the piper. All right. This is the best part about it. You can finally get out from underneath this contract, get out from underneath the old CBA, and you can almost start new. It's almost like starting all over. So if you re-sign him, you can sign him to a deal that's more palpable, maybe something right around the 15, 16, 17, maybe even $18 million range, which is okay. That's no big deal. You can handle that. All right. You can bite that bullet. Or you can sit there and you can just lose him. And then, like you said, bring in 3 new guys. This is great. I was excited when I found out that they actually made a great football decision by not franchising him. I was floored, actually. I was like, whoa, they're not franchising this guy? I was like, this is like the first smart move that they've made in years. This is outstanding. This is great. So I give the move 2 thumbs up. Martin Mayhew, I'm giving you 2 thumbs up. You actually made a great football move by not paying this one player $27 million. Good job, buddy. Good job. I was excited, man.
Okay, so then when you talk to people around town and everyone's all like freaking out, okay, the Lions are going to step back, and I can tell you why, psychologically speaking too, why this is going on. Right now, what the Lions have done since they've struggled for such a long period of time, what they've done is they've acquired talent with high draft picks, okay? But what we haven't seen around town, and I know you and I have not seen it, is we haven't seen players leave and then they regroup and get new players that succeed. So we're all like in a panic. Oh my God, Suh's going to leave. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. Everyone's like in panic mode, like, okay, yes, he is one of the great players, but people are talking like he's one of the greatest defensive tackles of all time. And people are kind of panicking because they have seen what the Lions have done. This is not the Patriots, and everyone knows that. Like, the Patriots could have cut him, and it would not even probably make the news cycle because they just bring in another guy, and he performs. With the Lions, it's not like that. We haven't seen consistently the Lions turn over players, let guys go, bring in new guys, and have success. So that's why everyone's all in a panic. Keep Suh, keep Suh.
You remember when they cut Richard Seymour? And he was cut at like the pinnacle of his career. And then what happened to Richard Seymour? He like disappeared.
Exactly.
He went to Oakland and died. So yeah, I mean, from the Lions perspective and the Lions fan perspective, hell yeah, this is like crisis time. You're going to lose probably the best defensive tackle in the game right now. When was the last time you could say that you had an all-star type player, a guy who was a game changer, a difference maker? When can you ever say that you had that on the defensive end? When? You haven't been able to, ever. And now you're going to lose him possibly to free agency because you don't want to pay him all this money because you made a whole bunch of horrible decisions through the course of his contract and sat there and basically loaded up his contract at the back end of his career, and it's going to cost you $27 million? Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, you're going to freak out.
It's one of those things where the Lions know that by keeping him, you're going to hamstring your organization.
Mm-hmm.
And now the question is, did they make him the big-time offer? A lot of people are wondering, did they take that step and make sure that they made a realistic offer for this guy? Because right now, teams are lining up. I think it shakes out where he cannot start looking at free agency until next week, and then he can start negotiating next Saturday. And Ndamukong Suh, in this situation, what a lucky guy. He has all the leverage. He has the ability to negotiate. All the teams are going to want to get him, and he's in the driver's seat, perfectly in the driver's seat right now.
The worst part was the Lions gave him all the leverage. By sitting there and restructuring his contract twice and having to push back all these numbers to the last year of his contract, they were the one who gave him all the leverage. If you were to play it right, you could have sat there and franchised him for about $18 million, which is high end, but it's more palpable than almost $27 million. So now you've sat there and you put yourself in this position. You know, as a franchise, you can't keep doing that. And I'm happy that they didn't make that move. I'm happy that they got out from underneath that contract. And I'll be interested when all this is said and done. When he comes out, he signs what he has to sign, and he plays either for the Lions, the Raiders, the Colts, the Dolphins, the Jaguars, whoever he plays for, whoever. He go to New York for all I care, play for the Jets or the Giants, whatever. For whoever he plays for, I'll be interested to see what the Lions did offer him. Because I do believe that they did make him a legitimate offer, or that they've kicked around a legitimate offer. You know what the number is. You know what the number has to be. He wants J.J. Watt money. He wants something like $16 million a year. So if you come in somewhere, you start the negotiation somewhere right around 14.5, right? And then you just kind of work your way around. And if you sit there and you end up offering the guy $17 million and he says no, as a responsible organization, if you don't go over that, you set yourself a limit and you don't go over it, and you're limited somewhere right around $17 million, I applaud you. You have to do what's in the best interest of your organization, even if that means letting go of a generational talent. I'm going to go as far as to say he's a generational talent, because I don't think we've seen a defensive tackle since probably Reggie White get this type of press and do the types of things that he does.
All right, I'm interested to get some opinions of some callers, and I know Abe's on the line. We're going to go to him just shortly, but for those who are listening now for the first time, check our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. We'll let you know when you can call in, join the podcast. Our phone number is 248-230-4567. We'll announce it on Facebook and Twitter when you can call in. So let's go to Abe and see what he thinks going on in Detroit sports.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Abe, my man, what's going on? Abe in Southfield, legendary 105.1 caller, loves sports. What's going on, my friend? How are you this afternoon?
Legendary. All right. Love it. I think the Lions not re-signing Suh is going to turn out to be one of the best moves that they could have ever done.
My man, Abe, I'm already liking you, dude.
What's that?
I'm already liking you. I'm already loving you. Keep going.
Good.
Keep talking about it, brother.
They got so many holes on that defense. Look, the defense was built around him, but Rasheed Mathis is your number 2 corner. I think my grandfather watched him play college ball. This dude's older than him, and it's ridiculous. You know, you got so many holes there. DeAndre Levy's a free agent next year. Also, you got to pony up some money for him. You know, lots of holes, and not that much money to spend. You're going to take that $20 million cap and use it on one guy when you're not that close. You know, the team's not that close to winning it all. And to spend it all on one guy is ridiculous. No team would do that.
Abe, you know what I like most about not franchising him? It's the fact that now they have flexibility. Not only do they have cap flexibility, they have roster flexibility. If he goes somewhere else because he doesn't like the offer the Lions give him, they can always switch that defense to a 3-4 if they wanted to. So now they've got flexibility to sit there and either work within their roster and try to rebuild this team a little bit different.
I don't agree with that. I don't think they can switch to the 3-4. I don't think they currently have any personnel to fit a 3-4. If you switch to a 3-4 tomorrow, who's your rush linebacker? Ziggy Ansah, who's never played the position before?
That's what I'm saying, man. You've now got some money on the cap side where you can go out and you can fill these holes. All you got to do is you got to get somebody to sit there and play in the middle of the line, and you can sit there and rework this team. I like the move. I think it gives them flexibility, not just in the salary cap and not just, I guess, monetarily, but it also allows them to try to do different things. And I like everything that Terrell Austin has done so far.
Yep, agreed. All right, guys, have a good one.
Because do you think Suh ends up with a contending team? A lot of people are now talking like, okay, Suh is not likely to end up with the Lions. Some teams are going to, potentially line up and throw a boatload of money at him. Some lists have come out on ESPN, NFL.com. A lot of the lists have Oakland, Jacksonville, potentially teams in our division, Chicago, Green Bay, maybe the Jets. Do you think Ndamukong Suh is going to balance out taking the money or going to a team that can contend? What do you think is in his heart?
Looking at I think it's all about the money. But looking at the teams that can sign him, that have the most cap space and that can offer him the largest salary, they're all non-contenders. The only team who can really offer him a boatload of money and be competitive are the Indianapolis Colts. But in like 2-3 years, they're going to have to make Andrew Luck the highest paid quarterback. So how do you sit there and how do you give a guy a ton of money on your defensive end when you know on the offensive end you've got to make that exact promise, if not more? So I don't see it happening. I don't see him playing for a contender, which is why I think if the Lions and him if the Lions are trying to call his bluff, I like what they're doing. They say, go ahead, check the market, see what you're going to get, because they know who's got the cap space. They know that the Raiders have the cap space. They know that a team like the Dolphins have the cap space. They know that a team like the Jags have the cap space. Do you want to go play for any of those teams? Hell no, you don't, because you're not going to win. The Lions are finally in a position where they have the ability to win, where they can win. They proved it last year that they can win. They've got a good coaching staff. They've got assembled pieces now that can go out there and can put W's up on the board. And these other teams that we just named don't have that. The only ones that do are the Indianapolis Colts. And how, in good conscience, are you going to sit there as the brain trust of the Indianapolis Colts and offer this guy $18, $20 million when you know that you're going to have to turn around and you're going to be paying Andrew Luck almost double that?
You know, a team also that you did not mention that I've kind of heard rumblings that is almost a perfect fit in terms of giving him a market to be that guy and improve his brand. They do have a little bit of cap room based on some of the moves they've made. Dallas Cowboys. DeMarco Murray might be let go. They've decided to franchise Dez Bryant. Jerry Jones loves him, some big names. That team is on the precipice. Now after a few 8-8 seasons, they've now taken the next step. They had a successful season last year. Tony Romo is continuing to develop, and you add an Ndamukong Suh to the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, and now every single game that he plays will be on national television. He'll be exposed. He'll have a chance to improve his brand, and you can feature him in one of the best markets in all of America. Dallas, look out for Dallas. That could be, once he's able to sign, look out for Dallas. I got a feeling maybe 60 to 70% chance he ends up in Dallas.
What they have over there on Dallas's defense going into the year, before they kind of got out to the run that they got out to, and they made it into the playoffs and they beat the Lions with a little bit of an assist from a zebra. Did you really think that Dallas had anything on that defense? Did you like anything that they had? I mean, you got to remember Sean Lee went out and everybody was predicting doom and gloom for that Dallas defense. And I thought the Dallas defense was going to be okay. I didn't think that they'd be as good as they were. And I think they were it was all smoke and mirrors. I mean, maybe that's just me. I really feel like that offense helped carry them. And I don't know. I just don't see him fitting in well in Dallas.
Okay, so get your crystal ball out. Okay, this is all done. This saga comes to an end. Him and his superpower agent, Jimmy Sexton, are sitting and they're ready to sign. Which team do you think he signs for?
I'm pulling my crystal ball here. Hold on one second. I'm rubbing the crystal ball right now. Are the Lions on the table? Can we say the Lions? Is that possible?
Go for it. See what if that's what you think.
I think the Lions are the front runner. I really do. I really think the Lions are the front runner. If it's not the Lions, I think the Miami Dolphins, because they're building a team down there and they have the cap flexibility to be able to go out and get him. I think it would be the Miami Dolphins that would make the most sense after the Detroit Lions.
Miami. Yeah, I just think that Ndamukong Suh did the right thing for himself. He got himself a great agent. He got himself somebody that has done mega deals. Mm-hmm. And he's, along the way, he's kind of basically said, hey, I'm looking for the biggest deal possible. And so the only other question I have is, do you think Ndamukong Suh, at this point in time in his career, does he deserve to get a contract more than J.J. Watt? Being the highest paid defensive player in the entire league, there have been some talks that his contract could be the largest contract ever to be signed in the NFL. Do you think he's worth it? Because here's the thing that keeps flashing in my mind. Yes, he's a great player. A great offensive scheme can kind of take him out of games by scheming away from him. And so then you're left with a guy that has all this money and won't make a bunch of impact based on a scheme. Yes, he's one, just based on the fact that he was single-handedly the best player that the Lions had in the playoff game. But there are some times where if he's double-teamed or things like that, he can kind of be taken out of games. And now he's getting a little bit older in age. And Albert Hainsworth comes to my mind of guys who get huge contracts and then fall off. So what do you think? Do you think Ndamukong Suh is worth being either the highest paid defensive player or the highest paid player of all time in the NFL? I just don't see that number being reasonable at this point in time in his career.
For the position that he plays, that makes no sense. There's no reason to offer him that much money. And it's just part of the game. You're a defensive tackle. I mean, your job is basically to stuff the run and try to attack the quarterback. And like you said, if you scheme the right way, he's already taken out of the game. So, no, it would make absolutely no sense to make him the highest paid player in all of the NFL. Giving him $16 million a year, that's palpable. I can see that. I can do that. Me, myself, I'd like to offer him somewhere right around 15, and I'd like to boost whatever the guarantee is. I think the guarantee, he's looking for something over $52 million guaranteed. But offer him 15 a year, 15 and a half a year, keep it under 16 or right around 16, and maybe crank that up to $55 million a year guaranteed. And if he takes it, he takes it. If he doesn't, he walks. I mean, you then have a little bit more flexibility. You can go out and you can sign more guys, and you don't have to keep restructuring deals, because then they were talking about sitting there restructuring Kelvin's deal yet again. His cap number is like $22 million this year, and Matt Stafford's going to be due for a huge cap hit here, I think, next year. He went from, I think, like $2 million this past year up to, like, I think $10 million this year. It just keeps jumping and jumping, and it's like it's quadrupling. It's not just a little bit. It's just bam through the roof. So you can't keep doing that. So yeah, no.
We agree on that. So should Suh leave the Lions, do you have faith in the organization to replace him? I mean, you could have basically prevented this whole mess from happening had you drafted a defensive tackle, not wasted your draft pick, and had you not decided to mess with Nick Fairley's contract. You could have done some things to prevent this whole charade.
Just shooting yourself in the foot.
And some organizations would have handled this whole process a little bit differently. But at this point in time, most people think Suh is gone. We have to look forward. We can't look behind. Do you think this organization at this point in time can get a free agent, can bring in someone in the draft to offset some of the impact of a loss of an Ndamukong Suh?
I don't think you can fully replace him. I don't see that. He's one of those types of players that, like I said, he's almost generational. It would be hard to find one guy to replace him. Do I think you can sit there and bring in a free agent or two? Maybe go out and draft a guy and then sit there and rotate those guys in the line? Yes, I do. I think you can sit there and get a similar type of production. I don't think that one person, though, is going to fill the shoes of Ndamukong Suh. It's not going to happen.
Okay.
He's too powerful. He's too massive. He commands too much attention, and he's become a focal point on that defensive line for offensive coordinators. There's no way.
All right. Now we'll get a chance to see. This saga is coming close to an end, and now we're going to see how it shakes out. The deals are going to be made. Jimmy Sexton is going to be getting the offers, and the numbers will come out, and we'll get a chance to really get in depth as to what was offered by the Lions, what was Suh's response, and who will Suh end up with. Also, because we're going to get a chance to break this down some more with Josh Katzenstein next. He's going to come on in from Detroit News. He's the Detroit Lions beat writer. He's going to come on in. He's stepping into the DocNJock program, and we're going to get some insight regarding this whole Suh saga and pick his brain regarding where he could potentially end up after the break. Stay with us. Definitely check out the guys at the Detroit Sports Nation, DetroitSportsNation.com. Great website. They are unbelievable. They are killing it on Facebook. Give them a like at their Facebook page, Detroit Sports Nation, and definitely check out their website, DetroitSportsNation.com. Our collaboration with them has been excellent, and they continue to be a strong presence here on the podcast because they bring the noise and they have great content. So thank you guys again. We can't thank you enough.
You're the future of our business, and I know when you guys have a podcast like this, our future is in good hands.
You got to check out their stuff. I mean, I'm really impressed by it. You guys have probably one of the better ones I've seen in the country.
Wow.
In a short period of time, you've done good work. Look at me kissing your hand.
I know.
Tennis fans out there, if you're a fan of mixed doubles, then there's no better way to watch tennis than at the Grosse Pointe Hunt and Tennis Club for the Midwest Mixed Doubles Championships. It's going on this week. You can get down there and watch tennis action so close. And at last year's tournament, I went down there and sat courtside to watch some great professional high-level tennis courtside. In Michigan, there's not too many professional tournaments. So if you're a fan of tennis and you're in the Southeast Michigan region, go check out the Midwest Mixed Doubles Championship at the Grosse Pointe Hunt and Tennis Club. DocNJock may make an appearance at the finals this Sunday to watch some up-close and personal tennis action. So check out our Twitter feed at Detroit Podcast, and you can see the draws, you can see the schedule, and if you're a fan of tennis, don't miss out the Midwest Mixed Doubles Tennis Tournament, Grosse Pointe Hunt and Tennis Club. All right, Detroit Sports Podcast listeners, on the line, Detroit Lions beat writer for Detroit News. You can read his stuff at DetroitNews.com. Josh Katzenstein on the line. Josh, how are you this evening?
Not too bad. Wish it wasn't as gross out, but otherwise good. How about you?
Yeah, exactly, man. It's taken us so long to get to the office here and do the podcast, and we're like, can spring come any faster? Please, my goodness. Now, Josh, lots of news regarding Ndamukong Suh. Obviously, the Lions decided not to franchise him, and by all accounts and all the reports, he's going to test free agency and listen to significant offers. What was your reaction to the Lions' move, and do you think when this is all said and done, he'll be a Lion?
Well, I'll answer your first question first.
I wasn't that surprised by the decision not to use the franchise tag. I've sort of been writing for the past couple of weeks and analyzing this, and really the only conclusion I could come to is that it was just fiscally irresponsible to use the franchise tag because of a few reasons, really. I mean, first of all, to commit $27 million, 26.9, almost $27 million to a guy for 1 year, regardless of what position he plays, even if it was a quarterback, I mean, that's just ridiculous and foolish. And there would have been all sorts of consequences for the Lions to do that because they would have had to restructure Calvin Johnson's contract, possibly Matthew Stafford's contract, to just create enough space to get Suh under the salary cap with that much, with that big of a tag. Besides that, then, if they were to do that, then in 2016, they're going to have all sorts of cap problems. You're looking at a situation where they might have had to, cut Calvin Johnson or convince him to take a pay cut. So, I mean, from that perspective, I mean, the price tag was just too much. But the other thing was that even if they used the tag, a lot of people thought, okay, between now and June 15th, maybe they could sign him to a long-term deal, but there's no reason to think Suh would have wanted to negotiate any further once the Lions used the tag, because if he makes $26.9 million in 2015, when he's up for a new contract in 2016, he's going to have even more leverage. And I mean, that would probably be close to the baseline of what he's asking for annually because he would have already made it. So I thought it was a wise move to avoid the franchise tag, whether it was exclusive, non-exclusive, didn't really matter. Because even if the Lions used the non-exclusive tag, it would have been really unlikely for a team to sign Suh to a $100 million deal and give the Lions 2 first-round picks. So I just didn't think it made sense. But now, as you said, I mean, everyone's going to wonder, where is he going in free agency? And I do still think he'll be back with the Lions, saying that is becoming, increasingly more difficult just because, as time winds down and you look at other teams that have a lot more cap space and, there are several suitors out there for Suh that could give him, maybe more than the Lions are willing to. But I just think that, Suh is going to see what the market is, and he could find that out, on Saturday when the negotiation period opens. And I think, there's still a chance the Lions get him done before Tuesday because they'll know what other teams are offering him. But even if, it does go into free agency, I do still think they have a shot because I think they know how important he is to the defense, and ultimately they probably are willing to pay him more than other teams.
Okay, Josh, I'm interested to get your opinion in regards to Ndamukong Suh and his worth. A lot of people are talking, well, is this guy worth having the richest contract for a defensive tackle? Is he worth having the contract for the largest contract in the history of the NFL? What's your opinion regarding Ndamukong Suh's worth? Do you think he deserves J.J. Watt money at his age and his value to a team?
Well, personally, I don't think so because I think J.J. Watt's a better player, but because of how everything has played out and with Watt, accepting the Texans offer before he was set to become a free agent and, Suh now waiting and having all this leverage, and Suh had a lot more leverage because he made, $64 million with his rookie deal, whereas Watt, I think, only made like 12, somewhere short of 20 million. So, I mean, Suh has the leverage. So, I mean, I think we've reached a point where, I mean, there's really 100% chance of Suh becoming the highest paid defensive player just because of all that leverage. So I do think, he deserves it in some respects because I would argue that he's probably the second best defensive player right behind Watt. But I mean, I could listen to other arguments no matter where you stand. I'm sure he's a top 5 defensive player, according to most people. So I think, when you consider all the factors, him having that, ridiculous rookie contract, him getting, that $27 million franchise tag number, and now him reaching free agency, I think, he's going to make over $100 million and probably over $52 million guaranteed, which is what Watt made. And I think the Lions would be dumb not to give him that money.
All right, Josh, why do you think that we haven't heard anything about any of these numbers that are being discussed? I mean, this is a little bit weird because generally something like that leaks out. We haven't heard anything.
Well, the Lions are one of the quieter teams in the NFL for sure. I mean, you never really hear much, about their negotiations until they're done. And so they're treating this just like they would any other negotiation. So I'm not surprised. It certainly makes my job harder not to know, exact numbers to put out there. But I think from Suh's end, there's not much to be gained by him, saying what he's asking for, even telling the Lions what he's asking for. At this point, he has every right to just sit back and tell the Lions he wants more than whatever they're offering. And, if they don't offer him enough, then he'll test the market.
Do you believe that the Lions have made their best offer to Ndamukong Suh?
Absolutely not, I think. And I don't think there was much of a reason to at this point. I would imagine, again, I don't know many of the details of the negotiation, but I would imagine their number has gone up, quite a bit since last offseason when they were negotiating with him. But I don't think, you make your best offer until, the deadline, and we haven't really reached that point yet.
All right. If the Lions don't re-sign Suh, where do you think he ends up next season?
See, that's a tough question. My best bet would be Oakland, just because, they have the most cap space and they have, I guess the Jaguars have a little more cap space, I think. But either way, I think the Raiders are slightly more appealing because you're going to a team, with the respected coach in Jack Del Rio. Khalil Mack, is obviously a rising star, and him and Suh could probably, run that defense by themselves. And then, their offense is a little better or improving. They have more money to commit to, other offensive weapons, whether it's, Randall Cobb in free agency, maybe a running back like DeMarco Murray or something like that. So I think that would probably be the best option, the most likely option for Suh. Plus, it's a big market, Oakland, obviously not far from San Francisco. But I think behind that, then you look at the Jaguars, maybe the Browns, because they have a lot of money too. And then I've seen reports of the Jets and Giants being interested. But ultimately, I think every team's interested. It's just a question of, which team is willing to offer him the most money. And I would think that he'll likely end up in a team that has a 4-3. But again, I think he's confident enough that he can play with anyone and anywhere. So it's really hard to say.
All right, you get to see this guy every week while the football season's going on. What really motivates him? Is it the money? Is it winning? Is it his brand? What one thing really drives this guy? Because he's kind of like an enigma to the rest of us.
He's an enigma to me too, man. It's hard to get a read on him because a lot of the times, when he does talk to us, he either doesn't say anything, he tells us, next question, or he gives us a lot of coach speak and cliches and things like that. But from everything that I know about him, I think the number one factor is money. You're not friends with Warren Buffett, unless you're interested in financial stuff. And, there was a story in the Wall Street Journal last season that Suh, at some point in his life, wants to be a billionaire. So I think, from everything I understand, money is the most important thing. I do get the sense that he wants to win. he certainly seemed to enjoy last season as much as everyone else in that locker room, and he was obviously devastated when they lost to the Cowboys. But I think for now, money is the most important thing because I imagine he's confident enough in himself that no matter where he goes, his team will have a shot to win.
Josh, how frustrating is it to interview that guy?
Oh, it's the worst, honestly. I just
it's maddening listening to it, man.
Yeah, you just don't know. You just don't know when he's. There are plenty of times where I just don't trust that he's telling me the truth.
Right.
And I haven't told many people about this, but there were several times in the locker room this season where I'd see Suh at his locker and I'd just go up to him and say something, offhanded, maybe a joke or something, and he would just look at me and then he'd look away and just ignore me. It's like, most guys, even if for some reason they don't like you, at least they'll talk to you or tell you why. But he's just locked down all the time.
Man, there's no way I could do it. I just feel like I'd get into an argument with him at his locker all the time. Just start cussing.
Oh, I've gotten into arguments with him, and I've pushed him when he's been on the podium before. But that's my job, and he has this skewed view of the media because I heard him getting into an argument with someone in the locker room a couple of years ago, and he basically said that it's the media that has painted this perception of him as a dirty player. But we're not the ones out there stomping on guys and kicking guys in the nuts, and it really comes back to him. And at some point he has to own up to his mistakes, and I don't know that. Have you ever really seen him own up to his mistake? He denied stomping and never wanted to talk about that. Denied any of the other dirty plays. Wouldn't even talk about anything Aaron Rodgers related after that ordeal this year. So we'll see. And I do worry for him if he does go to a big market like New York, because they're going to be a lot harder on him than we were.
You're a local guy and you do really good work. How frustrating is it to interview him and see the way he reacts with you guys, and then when he goes to the national media members, it's totally different. Does that not drive you insane?
It does to an extent. I mean, he doesn't really talk that much to national guys. I mean, I know people in his camp, have leaked some stuff to the national people, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, there was an E60 piece on him this year, but
I watched that. It was garbage.
He didn't really say anything new in there. So I mean, I can't get upset about that. And it's part of the job, honestly. I mean, a lot of the national reporters are represented by the same agents as the players. So, I mean, it's natural to expect that, they're going to get to break a lot of these stories. And, at some point you just got to get over it.
Josh Katzenstein from the Detroit News, kind enough to give us a few minutes talking Detroit Lions. Now, Josh, just as an organization as a whole, can we look at this as a learning experience as to how to handle a high-profile football player? Because by all accounts, when you read and you look at the situation with the whole Suh contract, the Lions maybe had made a few mistakes in terms of, keep pushing back his deal, renegotiating the deal, which would make franchising him cost so much. Or you could have thought maybe, hey, based on his personality, based on the fact that maybe he keeps referring to his agent, that you could have possibly traded him last season or things like that. Overall, do you think the Lions organization handled this the best way possible, or are there some lessons we could have learned going forward?
No, there are definitely some lessons, and I don't think they handled this thing well at all. I mean, really from the start. I mean, they gave him such a ridiculous rookie contract. I mean, just to make him happy because there was all that talk of a holdout, and they made sure to get him as close to Sam Bradford's price as possible. And I mean, I understand that was the way of the most recent rookie wage scale, but I mean, at some point you got to stand up to your players. And I mean, you have to understand that not everyone is going to be this super loyal guy. I mean, the Lions, they wanted to draft Suh from the start, but I mean, there were certainly some concerns voiced before they drafted him about Suh even wanting to come to Detroit. I mean, you saw some of that come out this year when we were talking to him in training camp the first time he talked, but or mini camp, mandatory mini camp was the first time he talked, and he got upset, when he said things that he didn't have to be drafted here and things like that. But I mean, yeah, over the course of time, the Lions were so confident that they'd be able to re-sign him that they never thought of all the consequences of restructuring his deal those two times that made it, such a ridiculous franchise tag number. And then last year they wanted to re-sign him to alleviate that $22.5 million cap hit that he had last year. But again, he had no reason to do that. And I think a lot of what's happened has been a very calculated move on Suh's part, and really the product of overconfidence from the Lions, because you can't treat this guy like, a Calvin Johnson or a Matthew Stafford, who have shown nothing but loyalty, because, I mean, he never really did, and he never really made it known that he loved the city. So I don't know why you would do anything that would give him a chance to, get out of here, give him more leverage in negotiations. So I think that's the biggest lesson. But, as I said, he's such a different guy that, I mean, there will be very few instances where that lesson, comes back again.
Josh, thanks for the few minutes, man. Hopefully one day we get a chance to have you in studio, rap about other sports, other things. And thank you for the insight. Great work. And hopefully the Lions can re-sign Suh and continue the success that they had last season. We look forward to it. And we hopefully get a chance to talk to you and get you in here down the line.
Yeah, for sure. Just let me know when you want me on again, and I appreciate the invite.
Want to thank Josh for coming on the podcast. We greatly appreciate it. That's why Adam and I love doing this podcast. We get a chance to invite individuals who are in the know, beat writers, play-by-play voices, individuals who are just as passionate as we are about sports. And Josh, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. We greatly appreciate it. All right, cuz before we start talking about the Red Wings, a post you made last week on Facebook caught my interest, and I've seen it a lot. I've seen posts about this quite a bit, and I haven't had a chance. You stepped into Vincetta Garage, and you typed in, man, great food, greasy as all hell. I've seen pictures of people putting burgers, pictures on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, all about the inside the bar there. It seems like a great, fun place. Tell me a little bit about it. What did you eat? And tell me about this Vincetta Garage. I'm really interested.
It's located in Royal Oak. Dude, great food. Great food. Their pizza's outstanding. Their burgers are outstanding. If you have like a gluten allergy, they've got gluten-free everything there. Everything they make can be turned into something gluten-free. So their drinks are incredible. They've got like Faygo ice cream. Like how awesome and weird is that, right? It's
Faygo
all
ice cream.
Yeah, it's all Detroit based. So it's a lot of Detroit products. Yeah, Faygo ice cream. It just insane stuff, man. Just crazy food. The way they make the stuff is just insane. I ended up getting the I got the Mason bacon burger, and it just so much meat, man. So much meat. Like you have no idea. I also got these like deep fried cheese curds. The best thing I've ever had. Like just everything. Just incredible. I've gone there I think 3 or 4 times. This past weekend, my wife and some friends of ours, we all went out there, and never a bad meal, man. I can't say enough about it. It's really good. Food is incredible. It's great. If you haven't gone, go check it out. It's worth the wait. I think we had to wait like an hour at like 8:30 at night on a Saturday. So it was well worth the wait. Always well worth the wait. Never get a bad meal. Interesting drinks. Like just, they do all kinds of really cool stuff. Like sit there and they'll do these weird things like with an orange peel and a lime peel. And they'll sit there and make stuff and muddle stuff. And it comes out to you and it just tastes like heaven. It's great. Check it out.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. No, I've read and heard a lot of good things about that place. All right, I'll check it out with the wife. But then you left out the most important part.
What's that?
How deep into the pocketbook does it hurt to go to a place like that?
It wasn't too bad.
Like $8 to $12 burger? Or a little bit more?
Like more. It was like, I think my burger was like 14. But
$14.
Like, dude, burger was as big as your face, though.
Yeah.
So huge. And like everything there is made in-house. So like the breads, everything, dude. Outstanding, dude.
Good stuff. Okay, so it's a little bit pricier than some places, but by your review, it's well worth it. You should go there instead of garage. I'll check it out. Maybe one day we'll go there.
I think I had 2 specialty drinks. My wife had 2 specialty drinks, 2 appetizers, and we each got a meal. And I was trying to coerce her into dessert, and I think our tab came to just under $70. So it's a little bit higher end, but if you're looking for a night to go out and splurge, and you want to eat well, and you want to leave, and you just kind of want to have a fat belly, great food, man. Good times.
Not to be outdone, I did check out the Hey Ange Instagram account. It took me a minute to find it. I did like it. Very good. So we got to keep this trend going. We can start a segment with this. The DocNJock Instagram account of the week. We are very helpful to our fans out there. And it's going to be skewed a certain way. And once we start naming the names of some Instagram accounts, then you'll know what we're talking about week after week. But the DocNJock Instagram account of the week.
Damn! Oh my God!
Lindsay Pellis, LINDSEY PELAS, all one word. Great Instagram account.
Let me check your Instagram. I can't get an Instagram
Hold on,
because my wife will go through my phone, and then it'll be a disaster because I'll start liking stuff I shouldn't be liking.
So Lindsay appears to be blonde, and her profile says model, fitness enthusiast, genetically gifted, Louisiana girl living in Hollywood, and gives her contact information, including her Twitter account. So Lindsay Pellis, the DocNJock Instagram account of the week. I highly recommend it. Good stuff.
All right, I'm checking her out right now, and oh wow, really?
5-star, right?
Yeah, dude. Wow.
Talk about some pictures. Talk about some of the pictures you see on there.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say she's built, and by built I mean it looks like she's smuggling 2 cantaloupes around up top, dude. She's got a real nice face too. She's pretty, dude. Oh yeah,
Lindsay Pellis, great Instagram account.
Check her out, boys.
Should I send her out a tweet and to tell her that she's won the inaugural DocNJock Instagram account of the week?
Yeah, I think so. If you can do it not creepily, because you know how you do. Oh, dude, there's one of her with like 2 pistols. I don't know about you, but chicks and guns is kind of hot to me. Like Tomb Raider style. Yeah, super sexy. Wow, dude, she's got huge boobs. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Those things are massive. Yeah, boys, check her out. Like, hold on.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. There's another one of her like just in a pair of panties too. You gotta get rid of this. Dude.
Oh my God!
Check her out. Wow, had a moment on air. That's weird.
So the DocNJock Instagram account of the week, Lindsay Pellis, all one word. Check it out.
That's a good time. How do we recover from this? How do we go talking about Red Wings right now? How does this happen?
Hey man,
you just sat there and we just
that segment was
just incredibleness.
That segment was birthed by you and your creepy you were like, check out this account, and
saying, dude,
exactly. I understood what you said based on what the pictures that she was taking. And so, what did you think of your shout out? Was she like, oh my gosh, these guys are crazy?
Yeah, no, she was happy about it. Like I tried telling her, I was like, look, I tried to be polite and yet douchebaggy, all at the same time. I didn't want to really cross any lines because I didn't know who was going to be listening to it, whether her mom or her dad were going to be listening to it. And the last thing you want to do is put a chick's business out there to her mom and dad, like, hey, your girlfriend is totally off the chain, fingers in the butt, like what? And that's how her parents find out. You don't want that. You don't want to let them know. So yeah, I tried telling her that I was trying to keep it classy and assy all at the same time.
Let's stick with some news going on with the Red Wings. Trade deadline happened, and Ken Holland, like I told you on episode 81, put out a smokescreen. He did not make blockbuster moves. He kind of made some, moves to shore up some spots where the Red Wings were injured. I'm interested to get your opinion first as to, your reaction to the moves. Do you think it helped the Wings? Do you think the moves helped the Red Wings potentially advance a round or two in the playoffs? And how do you see this shaking out now with the roster set? How do you think the Red Wings are going to shake out now with the addition of these two new players on the roster?
I like the moves. You're right. It wasn't a huge blockbuster. And the only reason it wasn't a huge blockbuster is because it wasn't a giant name involved. There were talks that they were possibly going to trade for Phaneuf. I'm glad they didn't. I like these moves, though. I think what they gave away to get what they got, they gave up nothing, and they got everything in return. They got the right-handed shot who can quarterback a power play, who can score goals, he's good on defense. You're not giving up anything. Like if you were to go out and get Keith Yandle sometimes is a flake on defense because all he wants to do is score. So it's one of those things where you go and you trade for Zidlicki and everything. I think it works out great defensively. Offensively, you sit there, you need somebody to help take the place of Darren Helm. He's hurt. He's got an oblique strain. He's going to be out for up to a week. And you also need somebody to kind of fill the role of Johan Franzen. You need a big physical guy who can put the puck in the net. So you go out there and you pick up a guy like Eric Cole, who's a big physical forward. He's going to sit there and probably, everybody's projecting he's going to play alongside Henrik Zetterberg, which would be great. So if Henrik Zetterberg gets another Jamie Benn punch to the head, he's not down for 4 or 5 games. So I like Eric Cole. He's a big physical presence in front of the net. He can go and he can deposit the puck in the net. He can win in space. He can make his own shot and make his own goal. So I like the moves. And look at what you gave up. You gave up conditional draft picks and you gave up 2 prospects. And these weren't even high-end prospects. These weren't guys that you were raving about. These weren't your Anthony Manthas of the world. So I love it, dude. I think it's great. You're right. By all accounts, what it takes to become a blockbuster deal, it wasn't, because there wasn't a huge name involved and you weren't trading a whole bunch of stuff to get some other stuff back in return. But what you gave up apple cores and orange rinds to sit there and get a whole watermelon in exchange, dude. I don't know why I went with fruit here, but I went with fruit. It's cool. I love it. I love the moves. I think this makes them more of a legit playoff contender or a cup contender than what they were. You sat there and you needed to fill a few holes and you went and you did it. You got the pieces you needed and you didn't give up a bunch.
Yeah, and Cole has experience. He's won a Stanley Cup with Carolina, I believe, in the past. Yep. The funny part is that's why I love Twitter. And once the move was made, several tweets came across the timeline like, wow, I wish this was like 10 years ago. They got guys in their upper 30s. They're rentals. We thought that the Red Wings weren't going to try and pick up rentals. But once Holland scoured the landscape and looked at what was going on, he saw that, okay, I can make some moves. The Helm injury really came at a bad time and facilitated probably some of these moves. But I agree with you 100%. I like the moves. I'm not exactly thrilled because, like we've said before, we're kind of used to the home run trades. And right now we're in the mindset of we're getting guys who have some seasoning, who can kind of come into the lineup. And these are guys, like we've said, though, these are guys who have scored some points, put the puck in the net, and have the ability to, muck it up. And Zidlicki is a great defenseman. He's got a lot of experience and big bodies. I like the fact that Cole is a bigger body. You're trying to offset the loss of Franzen, who is probably, based on that move, not going to be a significant factor going forward. Just based on his track record and now that he's often injured, Cole is going to be a guy that comes in there and can be a big presence, can be a guy that moves people out of the way on the power play. So now, the tough part in looking at this move was Canadians upgraded, Nashville upgraded,
Rangers
upgraded, Tampa Bay, all the teams that you would think are in contention kind of upgraded. What was your reaction to the other teams' moves? And do you think, based on what the Wings did, how do they stack up?
I think the Rangers going out and getting Keith Yandle was a score for them, but I think they mortgaged a ton to bring him in. They gave up so much to bring that guy in. From a Wings perspective, I wasn't willing to give up and part with what they parted. If you were to go comparables, I wasn't willing to do that for the Red Wings. So that being said, I like what the Wings did. I like the move that the Wings made. What really pisses me off is the Canadians went out and they picked up Jeff Petrie, and I would have much rather the Wings went out, picked up Petrie instead of Zidlicki. I like Zidlicki, but I think Petrie's, there's more upside with him. And what the Canadians gave up, they gave up conditional draft picks for him. So I would have liked that move much more. And that move, I think, happened early on Friday morning. Early on Friday morning. So I would have much preferred them go out and pick him up than bring in Zidlicki. But that being said, they got the right-handed shot. They got what they needed. I like the moves that they made. I think this move right here helps. I think it's a move that's trending in the upward direction. They weren't sellers. They sat there. They didn't give up anything. Like I said, this works out great.
The Canadians gave up only a second-round pick for Petrie. Second-round pick, do you think that value is too high? Or do you he's obviously going to be a good fit over there in Montreal. He's a defenseman, great player. Now you got also Carey Price. Canadians just got that much stronger. Do you think a guy like Petrie was worth a second-round pick, and do you think the Wings should have gone after a guy like that?
I wish the Wings, I really do wish the Wings would have went out and grabbed him. I would have liked it much more. Ken Holland's got something up his sleeve, though. He didn't give up any second-rounders. He sees something coming down the pipeline where they're going to need their first and they're going to need their second-round draft picks. He had no problem giving up third-rounders or giving up conditional second-round picks, because if they make it to the Stanley Cup, then that third round for Zidlicki turns into a second-round pick. So he sees something coming down the pipeline here where they're going to need their first and they're going to need their second-round picks. So I think it's a smart move what Ken Holland did, and I like the way that he made these moves. I think it speaks to his grasp on the way the league is running right now, what his team has, the salary cap implications, and it speaks to what is coming down the pipeline in the next year or two. So I like what he's done. I think it's good.
Yeah, and you were right on all accounts on Dion Phaneuf. The trade talk for him, though, did heat up on Sunday, Monday. Talks were that the Wings in Toronto were in talks. I think the big sticking point as to why he didn't end up was his contract. Toronto wanted the Wings to pay the entire amount, and of course the Wings didn't want to pay that much money for Phaneuf for that long of a period of time. So they tried to wrangle and they tried to negotiate as to how much of the salary the Wings would take, and it just didn't work out. And I think by all accounts, most people are saying that, yeah, it's a good idea. Phaneuf and that salary, had that salary not been in place at that range, I think they would have went and got him. But I mean, he fits. He does fit. He's a talented player, and he would be a good fit here. It's just the numbers didn't match up. Toronto didn't want to pay any more of the salary for that much time, and in the end, Phaneuf stays in Toronto, and the Wings went in a different direction.
I think if you would have brought him in, it would have changed his game a little bit. I think he'd have been a better player. I'm happy they didn't do it, though, because it was just so much money, and you just can't justify it. I mean, I know there was talk about adding Stephen Weiss to it, and that would have helped save some cap space for the Wings, because they would have got out of Stephen Weiss's awful contract, because he's been a total letdown since he's come in. But I'm happy they didn't pull the trigger on that one. All right. There would have been your blockbuster trade, because he's a big name. Okay, so now how do you see these pieces fitting in now on this team? Where do you slot Zidlicki and Cole and on the lines, and who do you see them potentially playing with, and their impact on this Red Wing roster? All right, I see Zidlicki being on your power play too. He's going to help quarterback that. He's your big right-handed shot for that reason. He'll probably end up being somewhere on your defensive pairing 2 or 3. He's not going to be your number 1. He's your bottom 4 for sure. As far as Eric Cole goes, Eric Cole's going to probably, Ken Holland's come out and said he sees him in his top 6 forwards. So he's going to be on either the first or second offensive line, and there's been talk that he's going to play along Henrik Zetterberg. So expect that to happen. I think it's going to be interesting. I think these pieces right here, I already had them penciled in. They're already going to the playoffs, right? We all know this. And depending on how that matchup works out, they might get by Tampa Bay. If they have to play Montreal, they might get by Montreal. I think now it's more of a legitimate thought that they can get by either Tampa Bay or Montreal. And I think they might even push. To sit there and win their division. And if that happens, you're going to play a wild card, and I feel really good about them beating whoever they got to play in a wild card.
Okay, so you think these moves help this team to become a legitimate Stanley Cup contender?
It definitely makes them stronger. Definitely makes them stronger. I don't want to go as far as saying that they're going to win the Stanley Cup because all it takes is a hot goaltender. So a lot is riding on Jimmy Howard. If Jimmy Howard can get hot at the right time, all bets are off, dude. They're going. I feel like they have the team in front of him that could win a Stanley Cup.
Ooh, do you have? Oh man, I disagree. I feel like the Red Wings, in terms of a grade, I would give them a B-. They upgraded
As far as the team?
No, in terms of the
moves?
The moves.
Okay.
In terms of the trade deadline moves,
Is it
I
just
give
because
B-.
there was nothing that wasn't like a huge name? Is that why?
Yeah, not that it was a huge name. It just now you take into account who they got, their age, their experience, and as well as comparing what the other teams did in the Eastern Conference. I feel like the Canadians did well, the Rangers did well, and they were already strong teams.
Yeah, I think both those guys upgraded, but I think they gave up a lot. And you got to realize too, we've got. Let me go. You keep talking. I'm gonna count here. All right.
And then you just kind of wish the Red Wings were like 1 year older with this group. I feel like this team needs a little bit more seasoning, a little bit more playoff experience, just based on the fact that all these guys are young. Now you're talking like this group of young guys who haven't done it before with a goaltender who hasn't done it before are going to play 4, potentially 7-game series. To get out of the Eastern Conference is not going to be easy. You're going to need some luck to go your way. And I just kind of feel like right now the Red Wings potentially could be a team that wins 2 rounds, gets to the conference finals. I just don't see them getting to that next step. Just based on the experience, you don't typically see it too often where a team that young with that many players who haven't had experience in the playoffs go that deep. So would you be disappointed if they, let's say they get to the second round, they win 1 round and they get to the second round with this talent, would you be disappointed?
If they get to the second round?
Yeah. Is it Eastern Conference or bust for you?
Yeah, I would be disappointed. It would make me a little bit upset because I feel like they've got all these pieces working at just the right time. I mean, I don't want to see Datsuk another year older, and I don't want to see Zetterberg another year older, and I don't want to see Cronwall another year older. I almost wish Tatar and Nyquist were another year older, and Yurko was another year older. I don't want to see the veterans getting older. I want to see the young kids getting older. I feel like it would be great. The synergy would be perfect. But with bringing Eric Cole in, you now have 4 guys who have at least 18 goals on the season. And with Eric Cole, you've got like 6 guys who have 30 points or more for the year. So I think they've got the offensive power, and I think defensively, by adding Zidlicki to the mix, you now have another defenseman who can put the puck in the net if you need it, or a guy who can sit there and help generate a scoring chance. I just feel like the team in front of Jimmy Howard, as long as Jimmy Howard plays well enough, I feel like this team can be dangerous, and they're lethal. I don't think anybody really wants to play them.
Oh my goodness. Well, we get a chance to also get some insight from Detroit News sports writer Gregg Krupa. He'll be joining us next on the podcast, breaking down the Wings trade deadline moves, and I'm thinking we're going to have some debates regarding expectations, what the Red Wings look like, and do we see this team as being a cup contender. Gregg Krupa after the break. Stay with us. If you're a fan of Michigan, cuz, then you have to check out uofmdiehards.com. Check them out on Twitter. Check out their Facebook page. They are a page that's dedicated to all things University of Michigan. They follow every game. They follow recruits. They have great interviews. uofmdiehards.com. DocNJock, check out that website quite a bit. If you're a fan of Michigan, there's no better website to check out than uofmdiehards.com.
I'm go blue, baby.
This is the Detroit Pistons dancing usher. My name is Shannon. And when I'm not at the Palace, I'm listening to Detroit Sports Podcast. Log in, listen in, have some fun with us. Love this group. Love the station.
Kidding. Yeah. Watch this. Said you ain't gotta say too much. Hate when you say that I play too much. When I get too close, I'ma touch that subject. I could read your body. Enough said. Quit all that yapping. Need less talk and a little more action. Yeah. Now, girl, keep it G. Know you speak a little freak. I can hear it in your accent. Said, tell me, can you understand my language? If you try and ride, just stay in my lane. There's no other way to explain it in layman.
DocNJock, episode 82, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Thank you to those who have been supporting us. We greatly appreciate it. We can't thank you enough. We're able to take phone calls. We're able to upgrade our equipment. Thanks to everyone that's been visiting DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We've been able now to add a second podcast that comes out every Monday, the Motor City Rant. Great stuff, guys. Always good information. I really enjoyed the length and girth segment. I didn't think I would, but very good stuff.
Yeah, you would.
Jarvie and Stubbs. So thanks, everyone. DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Free and easy way to support us. Click those banner links. Contribute via PayPal. Doc and Jock, greatly appreciate it. All right, Detroit Sports Podcast listeners, Gregg Krupa from Detroit News. He's a sports writer, covers the Wings, and you can read his work at detnews.com. Greg, how are you this evening?
I'm doing real well. How are you?
Oh, everything's going good. So the trade deadline has come and gone. The Red Wings made 2 moves. Ken Holland had told everyone for weeks that they weren't going to make moves with guys that are going to be considered rentals, and that he was looking at either making a big move. And Adam and I kind of thought that we knew that it was kind of a smokescreen, and we picked up 2 guys, Eric Cole and Zidlicki from New Jersey. What was your reaction to the Red Wings trade deadline moves?
Well, among my reactions was that Ken also said they might not need a right-handed defenseman either. So, yeah, it's funny funny what general managers say going up to the trade deadline, and I thought they were, very good moves. I think you now have a power forward and a right-handed shooting defenseman, and I think those are the 2 roles that were open on the roster and precisely what they needed.
Greg, why do you think the Wings didn't pull the trigger on the Dion Phaneuf deal that was much speculated and much talked about going into, I believe it was Friday and into Saturday?
Well, I know what I read and a little partial confirmation that the Wings wanted some money off of Phaneuf's contract, and they didn't want to give up Mantha. But I think my information is that the Wings got back to Toronto with an offer. But I think it sounds like that's where it fell apart. The Wings, it just wasn't an attractive enough deal. I think that Phaneuf would be a better player here, perhaps, than he was in Toronto, because in Toronto he's basically being asked to be a defenseman extraordinaire, whereas here he might be a little bit more of just a piece of the puzzle. Other than that, I've never been greatly impressed with him.
I agree with you 100%. Should the Wings have gone after a Keith Yandel or a Jeff Petrie? I mean, I know they got Marek Zidlicki, and he fills a role, and they didn't give up a whole lot. And I think if they would have went after Yandel, they'd have had to give up a ton. But I think Jeff Petrie might have filled that role a little bit better. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think maybe going forward, long run, it might be Petrie. But what occurred to me is that they really want a quarterback, a right-handed quarterback on the power play. As good as the power play has been, it gives them a dimension. And I don't think Petrie is that guy. And I think they're looking for a little bit of a improvement by Zidlicki. He's a 40-point guy just last year. He's been a 40-point guy 5 times in his career, 50 points once many years ago. But I think that's probably why I think in those terms, Zidlicki over Petrie is a move about, the coming few months rather than beyond that. And, I think Petrie's going to hit the market again. The thing about him, when you stay up late and watch the Hockey Night in Canada games or catch other Edmonton games elsewhere, he's good, but I'm not sure he's a significant upgrade from some of the stuff they have now and coming up. And whereas I think Zidlicki, again, is just that little bit of extra push for this time around.
Now, Greg, talk about the Wings' recent road trip. I mean, I think they picked up 9 points. They played pretty well. A couple hiccups along the way, but all in all, by not having played so many games at the Joe, I think the Wings came out okay.
Yeah, I think, maybe even better than okay. 9 out of 12 points, 4-1-1. And even in the games that they lost, they were certainly, even in the the loss and the overtime loss, they were certainly well close to the possibility of pulling it off. I kind of looked at it that they won 13-14 out of the 18 periods in regulation. It's just, it's a really good performance on an extended road trip. A part of the calendar that I was certainly circling, as they were too, in October and November, is something that at the head of the stretch run for the playoffs, that really could have caused them some trouble. And it turns out to be, I think, a boon. I mean, you go around the room and Kronwall and Zetterberg will tell you that, they think that was fairly, pick up for a roster in transition, sort of a proving ground out there. And, they're way within the playoff frame now, still 12 points up on Florida and looking to improve. Games at hand on Tampa Bay and Montreal, and it's really held them in very good stead. It in fact improved them in the standings at a time when disaster well could have struck.
Speaking of Montreal and Tampa Bay, these moves at the trade deadline, how do you think this bolsters the Wings lineup compared to those two teams, seeing how they're kind of chasing after them in the standings right now?
Yeah, I think, Tampa didn't do much, so I guess you could say the Wings picked up on Tampa. Montreal did a few things, and some of the smaller parts give them, the sort of third and fourth line thing. Another way of looking at this thing with Cole is that the Wings haven't exactly been rolling four offensive lines this year, let's face it. I mean, at times the third and fourth line have contributed, but there have been long times when they haven't. And I think just that extra depth up front, if you could ever get Franzen back, and, it looks like Helm wasn't that badly injured. But so I think, maybe a draw with Montreal, or maybe the Wings by a nose a little bit on the trade deadline. But, I don't think Tampa did that much. So I think maybe both teams picked up on Tampa. But Tampa looks like they're in pretty good shape. Yzerman, after a season last year where they kind of regressed, they've been right up there all season long. So good for Stevie.
On the phone with us right now, we have Gregg Krupa from the Detroit News. Greg, how do you see Erik Cole fitting into this team? And rumors have come out and kind of circulated that he's going to probably be paired with Zetterberg. Do you see that being a good thing going forward?
Well, you've got what occurs to me is Zetterberg and his durability, and the fact that you now got two big bodies around him. You got Abby and Cole. I think that helps. Meanwhile, the two big bodies are both athletically gifted. Cole's got some speed, even at this point in his career for a big guy. I mean, and I think, Cole's game is net front presence, and so is Abby's. And they both can, Abby especially can go get the puck. So I think it's a fairly complimentary situation. I'm impressed by that line. It looks pretty good. And again, I'm impressed that, by knocking forwards down to the third forward down here, you strengthen your third and fourth line too. So maybe something will pick up there going forward. But, you got to like Cole, playoff experience, and, a guy who, as Holland said, kind of plays in the Red Wings style a little bit, a guy who's going to be a little bit quick and go to the net.
With the two new additions of Erik Cole and Marek Zidlicki, who do you see as being the odd men out if this roster gets to be 100% healthy again? Because besides the Helm and the Marchenko injury, this roster was kind of moving forward at a really good clip here with health.
Well, I think if you put Helm and Franzen back in, for example, especially if you add Franzen into the mix, Jurko, who has not been productive offensively, unless he benefits from the moves that were just made and kind of perks up playing with different players, I guess he might be a guy that would go, and you'd have to look at Anderson also as being on the bubble for playing time if both of those guys were to come back. And that maybe what Babcock might do there is establish a bit of a rotation just to keep guys fresh and in the lineup during the stretch run in the playoffs. You don't know. And then I think, we saw today at the practice that Kindle is the seventh defenseman, and it's, Smith with Zidlicki, and, the top four remaining about what they have been all season. So, and with Quincy back in there also. So it looks like, Marchenko, the lineup can be a bit unlimited now. So I think Marchenko might even stay up, and maybe they get him in and out of the lineup a little bit. But we'll see what goes on with all that. I think Marchenko's looked pretty good. Kind of ironic that he gets his first goal and he's out of the lineup, although, of course, that's an injury too. But, I think Kindle's the seventh defenseman, and right now Marchenko eighth, and Willette ninth.
Now, Greg, I would be remiss not to ask about the goaltending situation. Jimmy Howard came back from injury, a little bit shaky, a little bit inconsistent, but we know that he had the potential just based on his performance earlier in the year. How do you see things shaking out with Howard once he gets back more into game shape and is ready to go? Do you see him being the guy that takes us, or do you think potentially if we hit the playoffs and he's on the skids, he'll be out of the lineup?
Greg, just so you know, John likes to stir the pot. That's what that is.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, and that's a pot that is, is already stirring, I think. I mean, look, Mrazek is unbelievably hot. He's putting together these 150-minute plus stretches now where he's not letting goals in at the NHL level and the AHL level, and that means that the Red Wings have three, good goalies. I mean, Gus has looked good, and Jimmy, listen, he missed 5 weeks And, they've had to try to get Gustafson involved too. So Jimmy's not playing all the time even yet. And I think eventually he straightens it out. Now, is he as good as before the break that he had with the injury? And I think that's a question, because I think before the injury, he looked about as good as he ever has. Now, does he recover that? If he does, I think they're in real good shape for the playoffs, but I think the playoffs is very much about the goaltending situation.
All right, let's just play a game here. Jimmy Howard gets warm during the playoffs. He's not necessarily hot, but he gets warm during the playoffs. With the moves that they made up front, where do you see them going, ending up in the playoffs?
Well, that's a real tough thing, because we've seen, great hopes for significant teams going into the playoffs, and it really comes, crashing down, including some Red Wings teams in the past. I think that the experience against the Bruins is not only instructive, but it's motivating them. And I think they're going to be okay. And I think if they keep really good health here and get the goaltending, they could go to be one of the Final Four teams this year. I just think the East is set up that way with the parity and so on. But those are a lot of ifs. If injuries, if goaltending, and just still a roster in transition, a little inexperience, certainly playoff-wise, but, you hate to get the real silver lining out of that dark cloud of last year, but I think the Bruins thing kind of helps this time around.
Gregg Krupa has been kind enough to give us a few minutes talking Red Wings hockey. We love it. You can find him on Twitter at Gregg Krupa, GreggKrupa. You can read his great work at DocNJock.com. Greg, thanks for the few minutes. We'd love to chat again, maybe closer to the playoffs. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Always happy to do it. Take care.
Thanks, Greg. Take it easy.
Want to thank Gregg Krupa for coming on the podcast. Thank the guys at Detroit News. Great writers over there. I always check out, when I start the morning, coffee, breakfast, sometimes a bagel, sometimes some cereal, and then you check out DETnews.com. Good stuff, cuz, man. Lots of news this week.
Most definitely, dude. It's slammed week.
Are we getting anywhere near spring yet? I know it's time for baseball season. Can we get anywhere near spring? Every time we record, it's like we got the crew out there shoveling the snow. It's taking us hours and hours to get to the building. Come on, man. When is this going to end? When is this going to let up?
Tiger baseball is on the radio, so that's always a good sign. And once that happens, it's just around the corner. So fingers crossed, spring will be here soon. We'll get some Tiger baseball in the mix here shortly, and life will be good, man. I'm so tired of the snow, though.
I think we all are. We all are ready for baseball season. And the best part is, exhibition game versus Baltimore. Our timeline blows up with, oh my gosh, Joe Nathan's in. Guys, it's just preseason. Relax. It's okay. Joe Nathan's going to struggle. I think we all know that, but I love seeing it. We're already in the fans, the listeners, the followers. We're already in midseason form, ripping on Joe Nathan. And this could be one of those situations where Bobby Higginson-esque, a guy that's disliked in town if he doesn't produce. It got so bad for Bobby Higginson, he got ran out of town. And when you speak of him, unfortunately, not too many pleasant memories come about. And Joe Nathan is this close to reaching that status. And I'm interested to see if he does.
On the flip side, you got Yoenis Cespedes hitting grand slams. So, he's the next greatest Tiger ever to pick up a baseball bat. So, it's a mixed bag.
All right, this podcast is coming to an end. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. You've been listening to the Doc and Jock podcast on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Thank you to Gregg Krupa and Josh Katzenstein from the Detroit News, breaking it down. We get good information here, cuz. Good stuff.
Yeah, we do. We get some of the best guests ever, dude.
Check us out. New episodes every Thursday on iTunes, Stitcher, Detroit Sports Nation. If you're interested in podcasts and you want a great podcast dedicated to Detroit sports, there's no better one out there than the podcast here at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Thank you guys very much.
Go Wings. Narwhals, swimming in the ocean, causing a commotion, 'cause they're freaking awesome.
Oh my God!